Hello and welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. My name is Chris Au and I have with me here the co-founder of Virtual Concert Halls, Dr. Anna Ouspenskaya.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you everyone for joining today. This has been a great pleasure to be hosting these programs and to continue.
Absolutely, and this is part 10 of the documentary of Beethoven's Symphony Number 4, written and narrated by Lawrence Rapchak, created by New Media Productions Worldwide and Virtual Concert Halls, and produced by the Architects of Music.
This incredible collaboration, for which we are so grateful, has been possible because our shared passion to connecting musicians and audiences in real time, music performances and live programs from around the globe.
Okay, there's the opening perpetual motion in B flat major with the main motive, okay, and the descending scale. Let's call this A1. Then the second theme, the lyrical one, let's call it A2. Then A3, the vigorous. This moves us to the dominant key of F major for our second theme group. We'll call this B1. This is the oboe, with the crazy clarinet underneath. Okay, then we have B2. Leading to the tempest, we'll call this B3. And its sprightly response. And our closing theme, rounding out the exposition with the main motive and woohoo. So there are the ingredients of a perfectly designed and thrilling exposition. This torrent of energy recedes a bit into the development section, which starts off with the perpetual motion, yes, and its new accompaniment, etc., now in the key of A flat major. And it leads us through a maze of key changes, which I will play slowly for you. There's our motive. Here's the motive. And arriving at a big unison B natural, as harmonically remote as you can get from our home key of B flat major. And then suddenly our A2 theme appears gently in the cellos and basses. And this is followed by a new phrase now. This is new to the development section. A phrase of 6 measures. 2 bars forte, which is loud, and 4 bars piano, which is soft, with a new lyrical motive that's played by the woodwinds. It is this, starting with the 2 forte bars. And it repeats, but our main motive, the perpetual motion, is going continually in the strings. And this 6-bar phrase moves around sequentially in its harmonies as it repeats. And this material forms the major part of the central development section and leads to a lengthy buildup with the main motive continually, perpetually in motion over this rhythm, the one that closed the exposition. And now the incessant rapid motion drops out just for a minute, and the entire orchestra unites on these short chords, very sharp blows built on the dominant 7th chord of F. Which you know will ultimately resolve to our tonic B flat, of course, but for now it's stuck in place, churning away like so. A deluge of orchestral power. And back in the exposition, when we heard this, I mentioned its connection to the murky introduction to the first movement. And now the connection is even more clear, since this is practically a direct quote of this from the introduction. The dominant chord, F dominant chord, with that ominous G flat on top. So Beethoven's uproarious music with this dynamic, unstoppable energy has indeed sprung forth from the inert void with which the symphony began. And that little atom of energy in the finale is once again chained into a continuous stream, leading to the recapitulation, initiated by the bassoon in one of the repertoire's most challenging passages for this instrument. One wonders how the bassoonist in the first performances of this symphony ever coped with this. And the recapitulation, as usual, basically restates the material from the exposition, and the perpetual motion in the violins continues directly into the coda, again supported by this accompaniment. And there are more tempest chords, and the main theme now returns, this time with the clarinet joining the violins. It's very tricky to coordinate this. Then the full orchestra takes over fortissimo, and that rushing downward scale from the main theme, this one, yes, is now hammered by the strings repeatedly. And listen where it leads. Done it again. This is the 4th symphony in a row. We're close to the end of the symphony. In the finale, there is a big pause, a big fermata, a held note, based on a dominant chord. So here the music grinds to a halt with that big 7th chord, but with the flatted note, the G flat on top, which finally settles here. But again, the same dark tonality from the introduction of this symphony is always present. But the energy and the animation, the life force of this music cannot be stopped.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the life force of this music cannot be stopped. Beethoven is a force of life.
Absolutely.
So well
And
put.
yeah, I find when I was going through listening to this and all the different themes and all the different motives that he introduces, it feels as if you know when you're there's a sense of feeling and of freedom. It's as if when you're sprinting really fast through the forest or something, or you're running in the rain, and you just lose all care or abandon, and it's just for the fun of running, for the fun and for the joy of being in nature. And you hear all these things, you're running and you're exploring. It's like being a child again. There's this sense of childlike freedom and joy and abandon. You can go home and you got mud all over your shoes and your shirt, and you don't care, and it doesn't matter because you don't have to clean it, you know. And I think that's what the opening or all of it reminds me of, where there's issues, there's a storm, but it's not nothing that serious. It's not really that threatening.
It's not threatening,
just,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's
in
a
B-flat
sense of
major
just
after all, yeah. There's some
yeah.
diminished chords in there, but they're still resolving into that joyful B-flat major. You're right.
I can't help but think about it. It's almost dreamlike, you know, because it's not real. It's sort of like if a drone were to run really quickly through a forest, just weaving through its way through, and it sees all these things. It's got all these sounds. It's hard to describe, but I think that's the sense of freedom I get, where you can't get it really as much in literature, perhaps, but in music, you just feel like you're flying through all these things. And there's a continuity, but it just keeps going. It never stops. It's almost like you're dreaming. Because in a dream, you can't really stop and say, oh, hey, let me have a look at what's going on in this dream. It's just, you just keep going and you don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, that's the sort of thing that comes to my mind. What do you think when you hear this sort of, because it's many themes. It just keeps going. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's the feeling of perpetual motion, unrestricted, and just keep going. Probably was the purpose of putting together all these elements that Beethoven put together, the connecting passages between different groups of instruments, and whenever there is a passing on from one instrument group to another, you feel that like a supercharge had been applied to it, right? When it goes from strings to bassoon, all of a sudden we're like on the next level of energy, and then from bassoon back to strings, again, that doesn't feel like going back anywhere. It feels like going forward with another jolt of energy in there. And many people, I'm sure, have experienced that joyful feeling of just being unrestricted and being in motion, being in action, and not being confined to any physical or cultural or other restrictive measures. And many artists, of course, and composers, writers, and whatever the medium, of course, try to express that feeling and communicate it and get people into the realm of that feeling, to recreate that feeling in some cultural or artistic experience. However, Beethoven is especially successful at doing that. So looking together with Larry through the elements and the construction, the architecture of Beethoven's composition of symphonies is really a great peek behind the curtain of how the artist can put elements together in order to communicate something, or in order to communicate this particular feeling of the unrestricted, perpetual, energetic motion forward. And
that's the thing. I think what's amazing with language, you have this issue where if you don't understand the word or you don't fully comprehend the word in the same way, it can restrict the flow. Or I can imagine some poems or some writers who are writing something and they're using descriptive words, and it culminates, and it may not feel as if there's as much of the motion going on. But with the maze of different key changes that Beethoven uses, it's very subtle things that happen that you don't register in your brain as an event, and therefore you can just keep going. And it reminds this sort of motion, especially the opening, with a scale, with this sort of motif, and then the scale going downwards. It reminds me a lot of just like the beginning hint of what Prokofiev's third piano concerto, that the first movement in that theme, and it's an all in C, but there's all these ups and downs, and it keeps going, and it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds, and it feels as if it's going to explode.
That particular theme sometimes feels to me like riding a bike on a trail. Maybe it's even flat, but it's got a lot of stuff going on.
Or you're going downhill and you're like exciting, and you have control of the brakes, but it just keeps going, and then and then you arrive, and you don't have to make. I think what it is effortless freedom. is what it is, which is very hard to attain in reality. But it's that sense of, yeah, effortless freedom where you can do anything you want. You can fly, you can jump, you can run so quickly, and then suddenly stop, and then you keep going again. I think that's the sort of amazing thing that, yeah, that's what I think Beethoven depicts. It's as if you're someone who's, it would be like someone who's lame, has lost use of their legs, who can suddenly run free again. And for us, it's that sort of leap from our handicappedness in a way, or our cardio health and all that. But you just without any energy spent, you can just go as fast as you want. And I think this music depicts that sort of freedom so well. Of course, the musicians have to use a lot of effort to play it, but
Yeah, it's not really
listener,
easy.
no,
And,
the
I'm
listener
glad
is able just to,
Larry mentioned
whoa.
that. Yeah, you mentioned that passage. It is notorious for bassoon. I think it's part of the usual excerpts for bassoonists who apply to major orchestras. Okay, go play that passage. Let's see what you can do.
I
with it.
can imagine. I can imagine. And I think that's just, yeah, that's just an amazing thing. And you can see even with the video and our amazing video editors changing different sceneries. It's like the forest scene, and then sun's out, and then suddenly the storm's back again, and this all these contrasts. And
And I love the timing of it. I've seen so many great films about music or musicians, which are not engaging enough professional musicians in on the teams, and they do great job, excellent job. But it always feels like it's a great job. It's not effortless. It's not precise enough.
yeah,
And the timing of those changes, which our team put together in the visualization of this program, is just so right. Just as the contrast in the music shows up, and so does the visual scene.
yeah, yeah. And so that's, yeah, it's really amazing how he does that. That Beethoven uses music to depict this sort of natural freedom, and um, and yet, we've seen the opposite too. Like I like how he weaves in the connection to the beginning, or the first introduction in because that's where everything is so still, and everything is so static, and it's waiting for something to happen. But
Yeah, and I
here,
just wonder if Beethoven did one of those with novelists, like or writers who primarily work in the medium of large form, often do, where the like a prologue to a novel is written after the entire novel is finished. I wonder if Beethoven did that. Maybe we need to ask Lawrence Rapchak this question. He might
that's
know.
a good question.
Because it's just, otherwise it's just too mysterious. How could he write that opening with all the next movements and connections in mind? Well, I mean, maybe he did, but I'm just curious to know how it works.
I
Whether-
wonder how much of it is part of his subconscious as he's composing it and formulating the whole structure together, and how much of it is purely intentional, like with like,
Purposeful.
oh, yeah, like I have to put that in, as opposed to, oh, that's a cool thing, let's do that, and it somehow echoes. Because even when you're writing, and I'm not a writer or anything, but when I've been tasked to write creatively, there's always something within your subconscious that's swirling through, the different images, different things, and you may end up repeating yourself just because that sort of phrase or that terminology or some sort of archetype is on your mind, and you want to, and it becomes something that you keep repeating yourself, maybe in different words or different ways, but it continues to manifest. I wonder.
Well, I'm sure that is the amorphous, chaotic source of the ideas, but in Beethoven's writing, the ideas are so sharpened and so polished to be so effective. And I've worked with a lot of living composers, playing their music, and I'm always very curious to peek into their creative process. At least my understanding, I'm not a composer, but my understanding is all the best moments are usually the moments which had been polished and had been addressed multiple times, and the placements had been placed in different moments and then changes, and there is a big background of preparation in stages. Composers
see.
usually approach big, especially big
Yeah.
canvases like a symphony. Miniature is a different thing, but symphony is a mammoth canvas, so and with so many interconnected stories and elements and developments and all that. And the composers usually work and rework that, and sometimes it's not on the actual music sheet paper. It's done in graphs. It's really interesting how composers really work, and there's a reason why these programs are under the umbrella of the organization and the website, which is called Architects of Music.
Yes.
It's not just a flashy name. It has a profound meaning, because composers do approach their symphonies in architectural way. And some composers even don't say the word I'm writing a symphony. They say I'm building a symphony. I heard that too from composers.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe like you said, subconsciousness speaks in that
It
terminology.
really makes sense when you look at the score of a symphony and you look at all the layers and all the different pieces and that form the layers and the little intricacies of it all. I actually don't know how conductors do it. I think it's just incredible, and composers too, obviously. So they're just
It
able
requires a very wide scope of approaches to minuscule detail and the grand scale of things. It's pretty incredible, and interconnections.
Yeah.
It's one of the greatest manifestations of a human mind at work, and of course
Absolutely. Because now we have sort of a bit more modern technology that can play a score on, I don't know, a Sibelius or Finale, and you can kind of hear it. But it's still not the same. You don't really get to, and a conductor doesn't really get to rehearse with a digital digital orchestra that you can turn off and on at home, and so all of it is so much a part of the mind, the subconscious,
imagination.
and
Yeah,
exactly.
imagination.
Yeah, and then
Imagination
it
is,
manifests itself into something that you can't even, like, apart from the score, you can't even hold on to. It's so, music that we hear is so intangible, so ethereal, it just disappears. It's not like a painting that you can hold on to and look and detailed and observe as is. And so it's just it's amazing. And so this visualization, the video editing, and our team putting all this together just makes this whole music come alive, and we're able to understand and wrestle with it a bit more.
Yeah. And we are very, very grateful to wonderful collaborators, Lawrence Rapchak and Steve Robinson, and the Architects of Music, and wonderful sponsors of this enormous project of creating the all 9 Beethoven Symphonies in film.
Of course, the new media productions, of course, and you play a big part in this too at Virtual Concert Halls, and the team at Virtual Concert Halls. It's just amazing what you're being able to do collaboratively. And if you're watching the show and you're enjoying it, please subscribe, please like our videos, please comment, so that we can generate more for you to make more good content for you to enjoy.
Yeah, please visit our websites. You see them on the screen, virtualconcerthalls.com, progressivemusicians.com, soundespressiocompetition.com, and colorchestra.com. All these websites are full of opportunities and events coming up. You can always check out the events which were in past, so you know what it looks like, what it feels like. And please get in touch with us if you want to be part of our movement, of our community of creative musicians and music educators, and everyone connected with the music, or be part of our audience. If you have any projects, please propose to us, and we absolutely love to get in touch with you. And again, we are live every day with the musical musicians from around the globe, music show, and programs like this, concerts from orchestras, presentations, competitions, and a lot more. The websites are a good source of information.
Absolutely. And with that, thank you for joining us today. We have one more part for Beethoven Fourth, the symphony.
And then we'll be going to
Yes,
That'll
we'll
be
be going to a
surprise.
different one. Yes, but we have one more part to go, part 11, and then we'll venture into a new realm. Until then, see you all.
See you all. Thank you for being with us.
No matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Expressiva Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community, an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world. Prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists like nothing you've ever seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.